How do students come to understand the geography discipline in HSS? Begin by unpacking students' misconceptions and naive theories. Ozturk and Alka state that students often have difficulty using geographical terms to understand landforms. This is because geography has a language of its own, and children often learn this from birth through their culture rather than from formal education. This view is also expressed by McIntosh and Dove, as they argue that students bring their own understanding to landforms and terms such as rocks, earthquakes and volcanoes. This happens as children form their opinions of people and place based on observable features. According to Dove, this naive theory can be exaggerated through some of the pedagogical strategies used by teachers, who can sometimes oversimplify terms and concepts. The use of imprecise language to define geographical landforms and the practice of rote learning can also contribute to these naive theories. Ozturk and Alkas argue that an effective approach to help students understand landforms is through the senses. Using fieldwork as a pedagogical tool supports this approach. Owens also supports this, stating that the number of geological features commented on by children directly correlates with the authentic first-hand and outdoor experiences they have had. Similarly, Watters and Maynard argue that a natural outdoor space provides excellent opportunities for teachers to respond to children's misconceptions and build on their interests. Class brainstorming activities and building concept maps to demonstrate where the misconceptions are can be helpful in breaking down the naive theories and help students come to understand geography, as students identify the limitations of their understanding. This ties in with the sixth facet of understanding, which is self-knowledge, as outlined by Wiggins and McTighe. Facet 1 of understanding, which is the ability to explain, can be fostered by pedagogical strategies involving hands-on learning, such as the use of fieldwork and exploration of geographical landforms and linking this with geographical terms. Using both of these pedagogical strategies to unpack the naive theories links with two concepts featured within the quality teaching framework. Brainstorming would allow students to identify their prior knowledge, and knowledge integration would be enhanced through fieldwork, as students would make meaningful connections by exploring landmarks through their senses. It is important to unpack this misconception, as it links with the conceptual framework through looking at the characteristics of place by examining landforms. The draft Australian curriculum in geography and Reynolds both state that Australian students often have an Anglo-centric view of the world, which is mostly influenced by media images. Misconceptions occur as children develop stereotyped views of other places and peoples from an early age. Unless these views are changed through effective pedagogical tools, these stereotypes can be difficult to shift. Ozturk reinforces this argument, stating that an individual's view of geographic concepts are often related and connected with their culture and daily life experiences. Therefore, culture typically has a significant impact on students' understanding of geography. Mapping would be an effective tool to combat the Anglo-centric view. Reynolds argues that using maps allows students to find places in relation to one another. Another useful pedagogical strategy would be using images that don't show stereotype views. Ozturk supports this through the use of varied teaching resources including real data, photographs and images. The draft Australian curriculum in geography and Collis both reinforce the benefits of teachers using a variety of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander language resources within their class that give an explanation of the origins of particular landforms. This can help students develop a deeper appreciation of ways of experiencing landforms and give students opportunities to see an area they know well from another cultural perspective. Geography provides an excellent opportunity for students to develop their intercultural understanding through understanding other places and people's culture and values, as stated in ACARA. Teachers can facilitate this by having students look specifically at the study of other places, including those of migrants to Australia and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. This can help students recognise their similarities to other people and better understand their differences. Through focusing on non-stereotypical images, using a variety of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander language resources, discussing the cultural values of migrants and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives, students can be helped to develop the fifth facet of understanding, which is empathy. This occurs as students are given the opportunities to get inside another person's feelings or worldviews. Within the conceptual framework, this links with interconnection by looking at relationships between people and environment. Another naive theory presented by K to 6 students in geography can be observed within the subject of sustainability. Reynolds argues that sustainability and stewardship is a big part of geography. Akara supports this idea as sustainability is featured as a cross-curricular priority, highlighting the importance placed on sustainability education. The naive theory some students can show is that of limited environmental orientation. Louchland argues that students often see the environment as an object and therefore don't see the need to take responsibility for it, as they do not see the relationship between humans and the environment. Louchland argues that this misconception stems from the cloudiness surrounding young people's grasp on the definition of environment, and that children often don't view the environment in relation to its effect on them. Instead, they focus on generic topics such as pollution and litter. Ozturk and Alkins argue that children are often resistant to changing their views unless they can see a use for it, or it helps them understand something better, and that these misconceptions can be exaggerated as some students don't see links between what they learn in school and their home lives. Louchland highlights a pedagogical strategy that involves focusing on children's experiences of the environment and then encouraging them to challenge those views. Ozturk and Alkins suggest similar practices to combat misconceptions, such as using concept maps and brainstorming. Schneller highlights that researchers have found that service learning increases students' awareness of environmental issues and creates bonds between community members, students and schools. Through this, student motivation and engagement in school and personal environmental actions are heightened, as students see the links between themselves and their environment. Fieldwork could also be utilised as it aids in students making connections between caring for the environment and oneself, which will help combat the misconception of just seeing the environment in isolation, rather than inclusive of a relationship with humans. Students can obtain an understanding of the concept of sustainability through practical activities and service learning. Both strategies offer students the opportunity of applying understanding, as explained within Wiggins and McTighe, as students have the opportunity to use their knowledge effectively in realistic situations. Fieldwork and service learning help students to understand through the facet of empathy. Wiggins and McTighe argue that to have empathy is to find what is sensible, plausible or meaningful in the ideas or actions of others. Service learning provides an opportunity to rethink a concept or situation as they come to understand. Through the explicit unpacking of students' misconceptions, through brainstorming and concept mapping activities, students can come to understand sustainability. The sixth facet of understanding, self-knowledge, is enhanced as students identify the limitations of their understanding and challenge their views. These strategies link with place, as Akara values the importance of students examining why particular environments have human characteristics, and also links with space, as students need to learn about the relationships between people and environment. Through the concept of sustainability, students explore how the environment functions and the relationships as the environment supports their life and well-being. This misconception also links with the concept of change, as students need to explain the present and forecast possible futures. As you have seen, these effective teaching strategies will help students understand the geography discipline in HSS.